Hi everyone, welcome to the live stream.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you once again for joining with us for another wonderful training session. Today we have a very special person, and it is my pleasure to introduce our guest facilitator, Miss Grace Angela Talma, with over 40, I would say really over 50 or even 60 years of experience in leadership development, organizational change, human resource management, and strategic planning across the Caribbean. Ms. Talma has dedicated her career to developing people and strengthening organizations. She is a Chief Executive Officer of Grace Talma Associates and Company Limited. Ms. Talma is also a recipient, and listen to this carefully, of a Trinidad and Tobago Chaconia Medal Gold for her outstanding national service. Today, we are privileged to learn from a leader whose experience, her wisdom, and passion for developing others will inspire us in our journey toward climate leadership. Please join me in warmly welcoming Miss Grace Angela Talma. Over to you, Miss Grace.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I just want to say to welcome you and to say how pleased I am to be part of this process, which I think is an excellent, very excellent project. I want to say to you that I think all of you are on time and online, and therefore once more I welcome you and wish you well. My session today is entitled Climate Leadership. And it's a very interesting project, and the session I know you will enjoy. So I'm going to kind of cover a few things in my session. One, I'm going to cover about climate leadership, dealing first of all with leadership, and then I will move on to discuss aspects of leadership and team, and then we will look more in depth into climate leadership. So let's look first of all at what is leadership. And I would like to say that leadership is a process of influencing an organized group towards accomplishing its goals. It is therefore a process of social influence shared among all members in the group. And I want us to think about it a lot in terms of shared among all members. So it's not only in one person, but leadership exists within the team. And it is a process of influencing people to achieve their goals. So it is a very important part of understanding what leadership is all about. We then move into looking at types of leadership. And the first type I want to share with you is authoritarian. The authoritarian type of leadership, or we may call it a style of leadership, has to do with the fact that the one leader in the group makes the decisions. The team or the members of the group are not involved in decision making. So that is one style where that person has to have the power and the knowledge and the understanding of what the project is all about to be able to make the decision on behalf of everybody. The democratic style is a style where the leader invites the group members to contribute to the decision making. So we have participation within the group or the team. The laissez-faire is where everybody is involved in the decision making and there's no one leader. So it's used usually in terms of when you are, for instance, looking to find a new name for something, or you're doing some brainstorming, laissez-faire. And the transformational leadership is really the style where you influence, you motivate the group members to be able to achieve the highest performance within the team. Now, let me just say that these styles of leadership can be used at various times in the situation, depending on the situation. So, for instance, if it's an emergency case and you have no time to wait or something like that, the authoritarian can be used. However, I'm suggesting today that the transformational leadership style, where you work on coaching and influencing and developing the team members to their highest performance, you should focus on this significantly more than the others. But let me go back to say that depending on the situation, you apply the styles to the situation. But the most effective one is the transformational leadership style. I'm going to now discuss a little bit on the skills needed in leadership. And the first skill I'm talking about is the ability to set targets. You have to be able to set a goal, because in any project, you have to know where you're going. What is it? What is the goal? What are we trying to achieve? And this is very important. It requires that people sit down together and understand what the goal is. Leading by example is another one of the skills I think is very important, because if we're going to lead, we also have to demonstrate that we too are involved by example in what we said or we expect of others to do. The ability to coach others, to develop them, to understand what the needs in the team members, what are their needs? How can we help to develop them to use their greatest strengths? And that's the next one. Ability to use all the team members' strengths. And that's very important. Everybody comes to the team with strengths. An effective leadership style is to be able, or skill, is to be able to understand how you can develop others towards maximizing and optimizing the team to its highest performance. I put here ability to have a vision, and a clear vision means that you want to see into the future. When we talk about looking into the future, we need to know what we're going to achieve down in the long run. What is it we're trying to get onto? So in your particular project you're doing, you have a vision. You know what is it you're trying to achieve. And that vision is very important. You have a clear vision of where you're going, how you're going to get there, and who can help you to get there. Influence is another ability to influence others. That has to do with your, I call it, your social skills. How can you help others to achieve what they want to do? So influencing is very important. We need to help people to grow, to know how and how they can achieve what they want to achieve. Decision making, a very important aspect. You're going to be doing problem solving, and we have to come at some time to make decisions. So how do we make decisions? And in your project, you will find that that is a very important skill for you to achieve. The other skill I'm talking about here is being able to communicate. Communication is critical to achieve your goals. How do we express ourselves? What is the use of the language? How do we help people to understand what is it you're trying to get across to them? So communication is very important, and you have to be an effective communicator, because remember that it is a social process we're talking about. Leadership is an interactive process with others. And so we need to understand how to communicate so that other people understand us. So those are some of the many more skills, but I'm saying that these are the critical ones I thought for you. And so we look at the team now. You're all working in teams. And we have to be able, as a team, as you go along in this exercise, to set targets. What are the targets? What are the goals we're trying to achieve? How are we going to go about achieving them? What might be some of the roadblocks towards achieving our targets? Everybody has strengths. Everybody in your team has strengths. So good leadership, effective leadership means that we have to know each person, know their strengths, know the areas in which they can be developed, and work with them to ensure that they achieve the goals. And I've put here ensuring the development of the team to become a high-performing team. And you all are working towards a great day when you'll be achieving, hopefully, your performance over the past few weeks. And I hope that you can really realize that goal of being one of the high-performing teams in this exercise. So we need to really mention and look a lot at how the team is growing. So we're going to look at some team building techniques. You have to work together over the next few weeks as teams, and the more effective you can be as a team. And I talk here about building trust, building collaboration, understanding how to each other in the team, being able to deal with each other. There will be times when there will be challenges, but to understand how to work together. And so one of the techniques, I think, in helping to build your team is if you're working on something and you want everybody to gain their attention, we call an icebreaker. An icebreaker is when you're starting a project, whatever it is, we can break the ice to make people feel at home and make them feel comfortable with a project. And you also include them. Another technique I've used a lot in my training of teams is what we call a trust walk. A trust walk is really where you blindfold people. If you want your team to build trust, then we walk with each other and let the person who's at the head walk and everybody follows without seeing. So that's a way in which your team, in fact, builds trust because we trust each other as we walk along, not being able to see where we're going. And that helps to bring the team together, because trust is something that we have to work on. We have to really be able to accept each other and to trust each other as we work along with the teams. I put in feedback and self-disclosure. Feedback is information that you get or you receive. You can give or you can receive. You can receive feedback from others in the team who can tell you how you impact on them, what your behavior is like in the team. And that helps you to grow to understand how you impact on others. Self-disclosure is the ability to be able to disclose how you feel about what's happening to you. And that can be very difficult for some of us in teams to let people know how we feel. So if I'm feeling uncomfortable about something, I should be able to communicate that to my other team members. So self-disclosure is really being honest with each other, being honest about self, and being honest to be able to let people know, well, I don't like this, or I don't feel comfortable about this. But it's important, you know, to let people know so that they can know how you feel and how they deal with you. So that social interaction is important all the time. You must be willing to get feedback from people, listening to them, and not judging, but being able to look at self and see how can I help to improve myself. So that's another technique. And I've used it a lot in my training and in my own life, because I think this is very important to be honest with each other and to know how we stand within the team. Brainstorming is used a lot in our problem solving. For instance, if you want to come up with solutions, perhaps one of the things is not only coming up with what the problem is, but being able to brainstorm a lot of the information, your ideas without judging. And so you come up with a number of ideas before you come to the solution. And the more we can brainstorm in problem solving, the more we can come up with creative ideas, then I think it makes a richer solution in the long run. So we should not be able to run in problem solving, to run to the solution quickly, but to give time to be able to brainstorm, use our creative thoughts to come up with a better solution. And that's a very important skill. Another technique I would like to share with you is a technique on looking at the team and its growth. All teams have a time of growth, and they go into very many stages. A man called Tuckman a psychologist identified the 5 stages of team growth. And I'm going to go through this with you now. And it's good for you to look at how the team is growing, how your team is growing, and where are you now. So one good technique to use is to sit and look at from time to time as to where we are. Now let's look at the first one. The first one is forming. And he says that the forming is when the group just starts. And I guess most of you are just getting together now as in the forming stage, but I will leave that for you to tell me. The forming stage is when everybody's polite. We are eager to join the team. And we are here. We're on time here with the team, and we're all excited. We're anxious to see how things are going. But the next stage, as the team goes along, as we're working, we go into the storming stage. The storming stage is when we deal with maybe a little conflict of roles and understanding who is doing what. And maybe as you go along, you will see people have personality conflicts. I don't like working with this one, or this one is giving me trouble. So what we talk about is that storming stage. We have to understand conflict resolution. How do we deal with conflict? And conflict or misunderstanding. You can use the word misunderstanding. So misunderstanding or conflict, we have to understand how we resolve things that are not going so well. And this happens in any team. Maybe people are wanting, I want to do this rather than I want to do that, and so on. So I'm saying that the storming stage is a very important stage because we need to know how to deal with misunderstanding, with conflict, and you have to be able to contribute to the reduction of that. As the team grows and we work with realizing that conflict can be resolved, we then go into what is called the norming stage. The norming stage is when the group settles down, we have accepted our roles, and we're out to work. So everybody is working, we're working on our project, and we are focused on our goals. And at this time, it's important that everybody gets involved, and we're working seriously on getting to achieve what we set out to do. The next stage is the performance stage, where we have reached to the level of our performance. We've gotten to our goals, to achieve our goals, and therefore, at that stage, we are able to look at ourselves critically and to say, yes, this is what we have achieved, etc. The final stage is when the project is over, and we will still meet because there's what is called the adjourning stage. The project is finished, and we look at evaluating where we have come from, doing feedback on how we did, and so on. And everybody goes about their way and maybe ready to start another team. But all I'm saying is that at times, within your team as you are working, you can look at where are we now? Are we in the storming stage? Are we in the norming stage, performing? And of course, the stage of the team, everybody will be at the adjourning stage when the end of the project comes. But it's always important to evaluate how we did, what lessons have we learned. And so this is a very interesting way of looking at team development and team growth. And sometimes you go back and forth. Sometimes we go back into the storming stage, and then we have to know how to get out of that and go back into norming, etc. So I'm just suggesting that these, and you all can look this up, but it is a very important way of looking at where our team is, and particularly if we're not satisfied as to how the team is working at any time. Stop, let's look and see where we are as a team. How can we improve? What do we need to do? Do we need to spend some time really on working at, the process of the team growth? What is happening to our team? So there are times when we need not only to look at what we have to work on, but how is our team working together? And is there sometimes that because of certain behaviors, the team cannot move forward? So it is a process. I call it a process, right? Not only looking at the content, but looking at the process. The content is the job you're doing, but the process is how are we working together? How are we working together? And the greater the team collaboration, communication, trust, and so on, the greater you can achieve your high performance. So it's a very good way. Sometimes you can also look at the communication in the team. You look to see if anybody feels left out in the team. And we need as well always to concentrate on the team, not only the leader or the leaders in the team. So good luck to you on that team process, because there are many other techniques you can use, but I thought that this was a very good one to share with you. Now we come to climate leadership. And climate leadership involves driving, advocating, and implementing for effective, sustainable, and equitable solutions to reduce global emissions. So very important, the work that you are doing as a team involves climate leadership, because you will be advocating and be driving, and you are actually implementing solutions in this particular project of AI Energy Hackathon. You're actually implementing effective, sustainable, and equitable solutions, and in the long run, to reduce global emissions. Now, I want to concentrate a little bit on some of the words I used here. I know that some of you may already know the meaning of sustainable, but I thought I needed to clarify. It's really being capable of being maintained, whatever you're into, without depleting the resources or causing severe environmental damage. So what we're looking at sustainability means whatever we're doing now, we're really looking at the future and how, in fact, we can conduct what we're doing now, but with the next generations, the next future, we are looking at not depleting the resources or causing any severe environmental damage. So when we talk of being sustainable in the project you're doing, you're looking in the long run, in the future, that we can, in fact, not have our resources of energy depleted. And when we look at equitable, I think that's important as well. We're talking about dealing fairly and justly and impartially without bias or favoritism. Everybody is due their need, whatever their need is, on principles of justice. It is fair for all parties involved to be treated equally. In some societies, for instance, people who are marginalized, people who are low-income people, may not be treated equitably and fairly and justly in relation to the whole question of their experiences in climate change. And therefore, there is this new thing, this what we call your human rights, what is called the question of climate justice today, looking at the human rights activities so that everybody is fairly and justly treated without bias or favoritism. And that's very important for you to remember, that we need to look at all parties involved in our society, regardless of whether they're young or old, regardless of whether they are marginalized or not. We need to remember that justice is always important. So I want to take you into climate leadership now. And climate leadership often involves empowering young voices like yourselves to advocate, to influence others, and to implement initiatives to ensure the process of change. So like what you're doing now in this interesting project, you are going to be advocating, influencing others, and implementing your initiatives to ensure that there is change. So the change will come about with people's behavior being different. So when we look at climate leadership, we're talking about involving young people, but we also look at climate leadership involving businesses as well as organizations that communicate to others how they are making the transition to zero carbon. So a lot of organizations and businesses are involved in being able to take projects in their own organizations and get into the transition process to zero carbon. And one of the things that they do is to invite others, help others to understand how they're achieving these goals, and communicating to others how they, in fact, can be part of the process. So it's not only young voices, but we also have, and we hope that everybody, be it organizations, businesses, communities, can eventually be involved in the whole climate leadership process. So I'm saying to you now that this is very important. It's not only young voices, but why we're concentrating on the young people is that they are the next generation. You are the next generation. So I'm going to give you an example. Internationally, there's what is called a Climate Leadership Council. And this is a youth business leadership, which in fact advocates for carbon dividends made by organizations to reduce emissions while strengthening economies. So they use some of the money that they develop, that they get from the businesses, to ensure that money goes back into the process So the next one I'm going to say here is that locally we have your organization, our organization, CZITT Youth Empowerment, which is a very successful, as you know, organization that you've been involved in, and we all involved in it. And thanks to the CZITT team and leader, there's great success, and has been and continues over the last 10 years to show real leadership initiatives. The Ministry of Planning and our government has a policy on climate change since 2016, and a lot of policies are being developed that create the change and are developed and are implemented. And we have the Royal Bank, among others, we have the Royal Bank Young Leaders Program. That's a very successful program as well. But there are many other organizations that are also included and have done leadership initiatives and continue to do leadership initiatives. So I'm just saying to you that these are some of the organizations that are involved. Now, how can you develop and implement your own initiatives? Because after this program is over, I would want to hope to make it sustainable that you either continue in your own schools or in your communities, in youth groups, maybe partnering with other NGOs and other organizations. NGOs are non-governmental organizations and other organizations. And I would say that that's part of your development, that what makes it sustainable is that you can take what you have done and what you have learned back into your communities, back into your schools, and continue to influence other people and other young people to do what you have so successfully achieved. And you have been very fortunate to be part of such an exciting initiative. So what are some of the examples? You can share, so if you want to become sustainable and you want to share the knowledge that you received while you were working with this group, with this project, you can share knowledge, you've learned a lot, and you can share knowledge with your other school mates or other groups. We know about youth climate ambassadors. I think there was one with UNICEF some time ago. But you can select a youth climate ambassador to help, to advocate, to help to definitely ensure that the message gets across. And that person, again, is what we call not only an ambassador, but a role model so that we can follow and understand, and many people can follow and understand their message. Building capacity is another area. That building capacity means understanding how you use the little resources that we may have to be able to build on different projects and different organizations and your own project. I mentioned earlier about developing a climate justice program, and that is being able to use in the program a climate justice program that allows fairness and enhances the ability to be able to work with marginalized groups, with people who are not able to achieve the fair justice. I call it the human rights approach towards climate change. Promoting renewable energy practices, where you're doing it. That's one initiative, and you can continue doing the same thing you did as you finish your project and you want to start another project. So we're talking about sustainability here. I'm also saying that there are many organizations that I mentioned earlier that you can work together with them, with other agencies in their programs. So once you have continued this project and completed your project, you can in fact look and see, well, who else is doing something in climate leadership? How can we set up a network to work with other people? And so I'm suggesting here that there are many ways in which, and I'm sure you learn, and of course, using the technology that you're using now, you'd be able to have even more initiatives, because you can creatively think of new ways of being able to utilize the information, the data, the technology that you have at your hand to help in the process of your successor initiative. And so I want to summarize here by saying to you that what I attempted to do today was to describe a little bit about leadership, to look at the different styles of leadership, the skills of leadership, and to be able to discuss a little bit about team development and how you work in teams and the successful achievement of your team is really being able to work together in unity, to be able to understand conflict resolution, to be able to understand and accept others, and to recognize the strengths in each person. In addition to that, I worked on, and I discussed a bit on climate leadership and the initiatives you can use in the future to ensure that whatever you're working on becomes sustainable and equitable. And so I hope that you have enjoyed my little presentation. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to wish you all the best in your goal to achieve effective leadership in climate change. It was a pleasure being with you today, and I wish you all the luck, all the best in climate leadership and in your development as climate activists. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Talma, for that inspiring and thought-provoking presentation. You've challenged us to think about leadership, not just as a position, but as action, especially in the area of climate change. At this time, we would like to pause to invite 2 questions from our students from Ms. Talma. So don't be shy now. This is your opportunity to engage with someone with tremendous leadership experience. Who would like to ask our first question? Oh, there we go. So first question is, when did you start to see yourself as a leader, Ms. Talma?
Oh, many, many years ago. As a matter of fact, when I was a little girl, I realized I was always involved with other people, with other kids. And I remember always wanting to become, the person in charge, to work with other people. And I recognized from very early in my life that I wasn't shy. I got up and I used the opportunity whenever there was to work with others. And also, there's something called, the whole question of the intelligence that I had of being able to love people, to work with them, and to accept others. So it started from very early. And as a matter of fact, I remember as a little girl, I used to talk to my mother's plants and teach them. So from very early, I was a teacher, and I would be scolding them and telling them, so from very early in life, I was always involved in groups. So I think one of the important things for you, for anyone who wants to really develop as a leader, is to remember that it's social interaction. You've got to be able to be a people's person and to be able to understand that leadership is not only in terms of power, but it's in terms of being able to influence others, to be able to get others to follow you. So from very early in my life and throughout my life, I've been involved.
Okay, hold that. We have another question here. How did you deal with pushback or difficult team members?
Very good question. And so that's an excellent question, because I think that in any team you will have at least one difficult person or one person. And it's not only because a person is difficult, but sometimes they don't understand. Sometimes they need a little attention. And so you have to get to know that person, get to find out what's causing the problem. And sometimes you have to work with a person alone on a side, not with the others. Try to talk to them, because sometimes people who look as difficult, they need a little attention. So they may need that they don't understand something, but they don't know how to say, I don't understand. So what I'm saying is that you have to be able at times to deal with the team, but you have at other times you have to deal with the individual. So the individual needs attention. You need to sit down and find out what's the problem. How can I help you? Let them know that we care about you and that sort of thing. So a person is not only difficult, but different. Let's say they're different. I don't like to say people are difficult. They're different. And the more you get to know them and to understand them, not judging, but understanding them, you can very well be able to help to bring them back into the team.
Thank you so very much. Those are 2 wonderful responses, Ms. Talma. I really appreciate it. Now, thank you once again, students. But before we go, I would like Mr. Donald Baldew to bring our closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Foster. And I'm still here scribbling my notes from all that I learned from this presentation. And thank you very much, Ms. Talma, on behalf of everyone who witnessed it live here and who will go back to the YouTube page to be able to go and see it and soak it in. Students and participants, you had a treat today. Even now, you may not know how important it is, what you just heard. But as you go along in your rest of your school life and your working life, these tidbits that you receive today will always be with you. In terms of the hackathon, remember that you will have 3 hours to prepare your solution and to prepare a presentation for it. So your team, in order to be at its best, has to be well organized, has to be synchronized. People must know, what am I going to do to contribute to the success of the team? People must not go there to challenge each other. You must have all that sorted out before. Who is taking the lead and what? You got some good ideas here today in terms of your own team building and your own leadership. And I encourage you to apply this to your preparation and to everything else. In those 3 hours, if you have contingencies, your laptop giving trouble, you have to be able to handle it. Somebody not feeling well, somebody else in the team have to pick up the slack. You have a little conflict, you have to manage that one time. So all of these skills and techniques need to be working for you to perform at your best in this hackathon. So we've given you the tools, we're giving you techniques, and we'll give you more and more in the next couple of weeks as you get ready to prepare. And we look forward to your participation and your takeaways from this hackathon. Thank you very much again, Ms. Talma. Thank you, Ms. Postam. Thanks for the backup team, Nikolai and Daniel and Melanie, who are all making it happen. All the best. See you again. Bye.